South Korea is marking the one-year anniversary of a deadly crowd crush that killed 159 people in Itaewon during Halloween festivities. A mass commemoration is taking place in Seoul to remember the lives lost in the tragedy. Now, families of the victims are still seeking answers on what went wrong and who was responsible for the incident. Halloween night had turned deadly last year after a narrow alleyway was overwhelmed with crowds of people, and calls for help was met with inadequate emergency responses. Investigations and prosecutions of officials are taking place, but no one has been formally convicted yet.
생각하고 다시는 일어나면 안 된다 생각이 들고요. 저희는 너무 가슴이 아프고 이제 그 부모님들이 너무 슬퍼하시고 조금이라도 자기 자식들이 한 번이라도 더 기억이 됐으면 좋겠다는 생각을 가질 것 같아서 오늘 이렇게 추모에 참여하게 됐습니다.
Festivities are muted this year, with many restaurants and bars avoiding Halloween-themed events as a sign of respect. Authorities have deployed thousands of officers since Friday to control any potential crowds. And for more, Lim Hyun-suk joins us live now from Itaewon. Now, Hyun-suk, the survivors and families of the victims have held a memorial today to commemorate the tragedy. Can you walk us through what's happening now where you are?
Well, yes, I am here at Itaewon, where that ceremony has just ended. It started about 1 hour ago, where you had the people from 4 different religious groups giving different kinds of ceremonies here to commemorate and to remember the victims who died here at Itaewon just 1 year ago. Now, there were hundreds of people who have gathered with the family members to remember those who died here. And right now, what you're seeing here behind me, and here are the people who are marching to the Seoul City Hall, where there will be another event taking place later this evening. Now, the family members and everyone here are calling for the South Korean government to do more to find out exactly what happened here at Itaewon. Now, when that ceremony was taking place earlier, it was being done near that alley, the exact alley where more than 150 people died, and where these young 20s, in their 20s and 30s, were crushed to death. And there were also a lot of foreigners and locals who were there writing messages down on little notes of paper and pasting it on the walls at that alley to say that those who died have to be remembered. And that is exactly what the victims' families here and these supporters are calling for. They're saying that the government has not done enough, and the family members here want closure, but they say how can they have closure when they don't even know what happened to their daughters and sons and know exactly what happened that night and why the South Korean government didn't do what it had to do, and that was to control the crowd. Or even after this tragedy took place, there were dozens and numerous of calls that were made to the police and the fire department, and yet nobody was there in time to help the victims. And that is the main question. I mean, after the tragedy 1 year ago, there was an investigation carried out, and the South Korean government did officially announce the investigation probe, saying that it ended, and it said that they agreed that more should have been done. And there were a few of the officials, there are about 23, 24 government officials and police officials who were prosecuted for what happened that night, but none of the high-ranking officials were taking responsibility. And that's what the victims' families are saying. No one really has taken responsibility for what happened, and they haven't really been able to conduct an investigation into this. And that's why the family members and these civic groups here are saying that they want an independent investigation into what happened that night. And a few days ago, I attended one of the press conferences, and it wasn't just by the victims' families of South Koreans, but there were also some by the foreigners, those from Swedish, Norway, and also from Austria. And they were saying they haven't heard anything from the South Korean government since this tragedy happened on October 29th, and they're just really looking for answers. Many of the parents have really left their children's rooms the way it was 1 year ago, because many of them have told me that they cannot move to another apartment, to another place, or move anything in that room where their daughter and son used to live, because there's no closure. And until they get the answers from the South Korean government and an investigation is properly conducted, they will not be able to let their children rest in peace, nor will they be able to rest in peace too.
Yun Suk, thank you so much for that update. That was Lim Yun Suk live from Itaewon.